Just because you're in B2B doesn't mean that you need to be vanilla in the way that you come across. You can push the envelope there too.
Welcome back to Quickfire Marketing. Today we're talking about how to make B2B marketing more engaging. I've got my special guest here today, Stephen Banbury, EMA's own head of strategy. Stephen, what never changes?
What never changes or should never change in B2B marketing is a focus on your customer and essentially how you're solving your customers' pain points. It's very important when you're articulating your product that you're doing so from a customer back standpoint. So what's really the value that you're bringing and the benefits that you bring versus what are the feeds and speeds, feature functions. So really thinking about when a customer comes to solve a need or there's a pain point, that you're addressing it in terms that they can really understand. So the way you think about a customer and the customer experience should never change.
Yeah, just kind of simplifying it down, making sure everyone gets it.
That's right. And that actually goes down to even to the program level. So being like really intentional about your program. So when you think about the buyer's journey, certainly within the B2B landscape, it's typically a group. It's not really ever an individual. You're actually selling to like multiple people. So be really thoughtful about the language that you use, the cadence at which you're putting out those communications to help drive them to purchase.
So great. Thanks for covering what never changes. But what about what does change?
Well, one thing that's, I think, changing is for B2B, actually looking and taking lessons from the consumer, a B2C world, and direct to consumer, where if you take the case of, say, creative and design, being a little more human, like pushing those boundaries a little. Just because you're in B2B doesn't mean that you need to be vanilla in the way that you come across. You can push the envelope there too. Influencer marketing, you see more and more of that. So when you think about B2C or direct to consumer, influencer marketing is huge, but more and more you actually see that in B2B, in technology, and that kind of flows into even how social is being used. So TikTok, for example, isn't something that first comes to mind as a digital channel, social channel for B2B, but there are companies that have been very successful using TikTok as a channel. Often in B2B, we used language, or I've seen language being used in a way that actually is off-putting and very jingoistic. So keep it simple. Actually making messaging simple is actually harder than it looks. So you really have to work to make that happen.
Do you mean like when people add as a service to the end of everything?
Or sometimes.
Yeah. Like, you know, there's like SaaS, and there's IaaS, and there's PaaS, and there's MaaS, and you put a letter in front of it, and we got an AAS after it.
I think it's acronyms. Oh, terrible, right? I mean, there is industry ones, but it's important before you just throw acronyms that you've made up for your own service to actually explain what that is before you start shortening it, because it's just very off-putting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
You mentioned making your brand more human, sounding more human, but all these artificial intelligence tools are coming in. They're slowly displacing people, or, they're moving people's functions around. How do you, what are some things you can do to focus on staying more human when you're getting caught up with all this artificial wave?
That's a great question. So when you think about Gen AI and the way it's used to generate content, you're not replacing a gifted writer, right? Or a subject matter expert. Now, it could reduce the size of that team, but to make it more human, you need a human. We've just seen more and more Gen AI tools, whether that's Midjourney for designers, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude, for example, Descript. There are many tools out there that are changing the way marketers, and actually every role, every function is thinking about their role. So definitely time for people to really start interacting with it and get familiar with it. But at this point, I don't see it replacing a writer, for example, or a creative.
Yeah. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
Well, one of them is actually shorter form content. So shorter term content, so videos, because time is precious and people don't want to spend the time or don't have the time to sit down to like a 20-minute, 40-minute video. And if you think about the podcast here, this is a short podcast.
Yeah.
And that's intentional because people don't have the time to sit down. So shorter form, definitely something that you're going to see more.
All right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, we're wrapping up at Quickfire Marketing. You can find us on LinkedIn and wherever podcasts are found. Talk to you guys soon. Cheers. I'm your Stephen.
Back to the weather.
Yeah. Then the land of the beautiful Ozarks.
Well, I'm going hunting later.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Stephen, now that the fog is cleared up, where do you see the future of marketing?
Well, I see trout in my future.
Is there a trout?